Friends, welcome to the India Power Talk. India Power Talk is a knowledge sharing initiative. We invite international thought leaders and domain experts to share their insights, experiences, and strategies related to business and the economy. The result is an easily accessible digital source of knowledge that benefits not only Indian entrepreneurs and policymakers, but also international businesses, investors, and strategic partners who have invested in or intend to invest in India. Our speakers include entrepreneurs, economists, professors, investment bankers, inventors, scientists, lawyers, chartered accountants, and other senior professionals with experience in diverse sectors. Today, we will explore India's economy and growth opportunities in international trade. We have the privilege of welcoming a guest who is extraordinarily well qualified to talk about this important topic. Adrian Mutton, CEO and founder of Sannam S4, a leading international market entry and expansion practice that brings international investors, companies, and universities to India. Welcome, Adrian. It's pleasure to have you on India Power Talk. Adrian, please could you begin by talking about what drew you to India and the early experiences you had in this country?
Nitin, thank you very much for that kind and warm welcome. I'm delighted to be part of your India Power Talk and grateful for the opportunity of sharing what has now been a 30-year history of a very, very close association with India. And at this particular time, my thoughts are with you and all of the Indian population with a very difficult time that you're going through with COVID-19. So my journey with India began as a starry-eyed 14-year-old at school in Oxford in England. So as I was approaching the end of my high school years, I started writing to organizations in India, a combination of non-profits, government organizations, businesses, and of course, these were the days before email. So I was writing letters and hoping that they would come back in some shape, form or another. And one day I received this wonderful letter on the doorstep from the Joshi family, the owners and principal of the public school in Saharanpur, and they said, you know, we'd love to have you come and teach. And of course, that was an opportunity I couldn't resist. When I got to Saharanpur, I think the thing that struck me most is the simplicity of life there, first and foremost. So the Joshi family, who've become lifelong friends of mine, had a good school. They were ambitious. And like many Indian families, they were traditionally dressed. They were strict vegetarians. And they had one white ambassador car, which was the pride and joy of the school. And I drove around everywhere in that ambassador, and it was great fun. Above and beyond recognizing the traditionalist environment that I was in, what struck me is that the teaching I was doing was centered around English and economics. And I realized within the first lesson that most of the students I was teaching economics to were far smarter than I was. Mm-hmm. So I had to spend hours in the evenings doing my homework. I was doing more homework than they were just to be able to prepare for the next lesson. And I just finished doing economics in Oxford, and I realized that if we could one day capture the brains of these Indian youth population and convert them onto the global stage, you know, one would be looking to a bright future. And of course, India's gone on to do that with many of its bright, talented students that have gone across the seas and today. And then as the autumn came, I contracted malaria and I was very, very sick and was taken to a local hospital. And then I saw the other side of India, which was the limited health infrastructure that exists in the country, the types of treatment that are offered to sick people and how it was managed. And it was at that point, very, very early on in my India journey, that I recognized the frailty of society as well from a health perspective. And 30 years later, it's just heartbreaking to see that play out at such scale with the COVID pandemic today.
Can you tell us about what what made you start Sannam S4 and what all Sannam S4 is doing? And first of all, what is this Sannam S4?
Yeah, so Sannam S4 is the name of the company that I founded in 2008. And when I was looking to establish the business, I wanted a name that was ubiquitous in India, that it was in everyday life, but no one quite knew what the name was, and would ask the same question that you've asked, and hopefully never forget the answer. And so working with a marketing executive at the time, she presented a whole bunch of ideas, and the final one was the logo that you see behind me, the big burning globe. And Sannam S4 is actually India's most widely used red chili. It comes from the Guntur province of Andhra Pradesh. Okay. And for most Indians don't know it. If you ask an Indian to name you a mango, they'll name 10. If you ask them to name an apple, they might be able to say Kashmiri, Himachal, Washington. If you ask them to name a chili, they say red or green. People eat chilies all the time, from masala omelets right through the day. And so the Sannam S4 chili for me was a symbol of being part of an everyday Indian experience. It was the key ingredient to most Indian recipes, and yet it wasn't us that were taking the glory, it was the chefs. And in our case, the chefs are our clients, whether they be universities or corporates or non-profit organizations. And I also loved the imagery because it gave me an excuse. If you come to any of our 5 offices in Delhi, they are emblazoned with pictures of fields in Andhra and bright red chilies, and there's a certain vibrancy that we managed to capture with the name.
What exactly is the activity of Sannam S4? I mean, what are the areas of work that you do?
The opportunity that I saw was based on what I've been doing for the previous 10 years, helping a international technology company really be global. And so my role within that company was to build our international manufacturing footprint, take it from the UK, first to Singapore, then to Taiwan. We opened up distribution and development centers around the world. We opened up sales offices. And that was a really interesting learning experience. I was still very young in those days. And I thought to myself, there must be an easier way to internationalize a company than all of this pain that organizations go through, whether it be HR, tax, governance, etc. And so that was the idea, that recognizing companies were going to come into India in their plane loads, who was really going to look after them? And after quite a lot of research, I felt that there was an opportunity for me to play a role there.
Can we move to the COVID situation? What India has learned to learn from the past successes and failures, and particularly, I would really love to know from you as to how did you shifted Sannam S4's focus during the pandemic?
Yeah, so firstly, I reflect back on those very early days in Saharumpa, where I was hospitalized with malaria, and I had first-hand exposure to the medical infrastructure. And I was also a teacher, so I had first-hand experience to India's education system in 30 years ago. And when I look back over those 30 years and I see India's development, I can look at Bandra Kurla complex in Mumbai, I can look at Gurugram in Haryana, I can look at what's going on in the satellite cities around most of the major metropolis, and you can see and feel that development. You've obviously got the wealth, you've got some of the most successful entrepreneurs around the world. But when I look back at where India was 30 years ago vis-a-vis its healthcare and education, yes, there have been some wonderful success stories. There are some fabulous healthcare companies, Fortis and Max and Apollo, of course, yeah. And there are some wonderful schools. The IITs have produced some of the brightest people on the planet, without doubt. There are some fabulous private universities now. And I feel that India's healthcare and education system, despite tremendous brain power, despite tremendous goodwill, has not yet caught up with India's development agenda. And there's a role for all of us to play in making sure that this is the wake-up call that everyone needed.
Yes.
And so through the pandemic, what Sannam S4 has done has doubled down on its efforts to ensure that we are serving India's education community as effectively as possible by bringing in world-class technology that can enable a combination of on-campus and remote learning. So hybrid learning can be deployed, or through the cases of many lockdowns, full remote learning is effective and efficient. We've been bringing in many universities who are talking about transnational education opportunities with domestic universities for that idea, knowledge and teaching exchange, which is absolutely vital. We're looking at ways of accelerating international universities' research agenda in India. One of the big issues that we've been advocating for reform on is India's FCRA Act, Foreign Contributions Regulations Act. And we've been saying for years and years and years, this is a problem. And now it's a big problem.
Yes.
And so we're doing all we can to leverage the tremendous willingness that the international education community has at all levels to be a partner to India in its development agenda. And that's not to sacrifice India's own nationalist ideals or its own religious ideals, but it's to bring the best of what India has, take what the best of the world has, and create India's own version of international higher education. So that's one thing, and we're spending a lot of time, effort, and money on that agenda. The second area that we're focusing on is ensuring that the non-profit organizations internationally who were already struggling to do the work that they wanted to in India, perhaps because of FCRA, perhaps because of the time it takes to be a qualified recipient of donations in India, because of the regulations, because of their inability to travel to the country at the moment. We're doing all we can, not just with COVID focus. And in fact, we've put $100,000 of our own money into our own COVID program, plus we're raising another $100,000 with our partners and clients. But there are all these other programs that we are naturally supporting in areas of malaria, child welfare, gender and development, innovation and entrepreneurship, other areas of healthcare. And so we want to make sure that the international research collaboration does not slow down through the pandemic. And then the third area, which is absolutely critical, and has been something that we've been working very closely with the government of India on over the years, is bringing foreign investors into the country so that we can create jobs. We're very proud at Sannam S4 that in the year prior to the pandemic, we brought in just over $1 billion of investment into India through international clients. And those companies are creating hundreds and thousands of jobs. Absolutely. And as they create jobs, we're creating jobs. We, as you said in your introduction, we increased our workforce 20% through the pandemic. 63% of our workforce is female. So we want to see more of this. And if ever there is a time for job creation in India, it's going to be in the next 5 to 10 years, particularly with the demographic curve shaped the way it is with India's young population. And so we feel a sense of responsibility working with India to drive as much investment and job creation opportunity over the next 5 to 10 years as we possibly can.
You know, Adrian, India's population is young compared to that of US and Europe. Now, what do you think are the most important needs of India's young people, and how best can they be met, considering the fact that one teacher, a 19-year-old boy coming from Oxford to India, and creates such a huge empire and has such a huge impact on India?
One has to give India's young population the opportunity to be the best possible version of they can in whatever shape or form that is, whether it's in the arts, whether it's in music, whether it's in, of course, all of the high growth technology companies that are there. But the intellectual property and the value of the mind power that Indian young people bring has to be captured in India. There's already enough money, enough wealth in Silicon Valley. And that mobility has got to be fostered and encouraged.
Here, Adrian, I would sincerely urge you to please address the parents of India, parents of these children. What advice would you give to the parents of these children?
From personal experience, Nitin, what my parents have always done is say, if you have really thought this through, if you've got at least an understanding of the risks and the opportunity, and you're able to articulate that to us, we will support you 100%. And if you walk out of this door and you succeed, we'll be the proudest parents you
Absolutely.
can ever imagine. If you fail, we'll still be the proudest parents because
Absolutely.
you had the guts to go out there and try it. And so whatever you do, we'll either be there with a safety net for you to fall on or a champagne bottle to celebrate with you. So, off you go. And they've just given me that opportunity to explore, to travel, and to take a step further into the unknown that I think many parents don't allow their children to take. And I would encourage all parents to be like mine and just let their child take that extra one or two steps that they really do feel naturally anxious about.
It is well documented, Adrian, that the fact that educating and empowering women is one of the most effective approaches to lifting families out of poverty. So what policies and measures could you feel should you put in place in India to help women realize their potential? And particularly, in India, we really need to work on this area. So, and what can the business community do to help this?
We employ, as I said, 63% women at Sannam S4, something we're very proud of, and continuing to invest in female leadership development programs, flexi work, giving women opportunity who don't want a full-time job but still want to be economically active and independent and stimulated. And we've had to build in quite a lot of additional pastoral care to ensure that those women are, from our perspective, where we can as a business, given a little bit of extra space to manage those domestic affairs in a way that I just think with the pace of the pandemic, with how it's all played out, no one's just really given a voice to them. And if you look on the political stage in India, who is really out there lobbying for women? It's just not happening. There isn't a strong enough voice politically that's supporting women through the pandemic, and I think that's something that hopefully will be one of the lessons that is learned through this dreadful period that we're all experiencing.
You are now located in Washington, D.C. I mean, what do you miss most about living in India? I mean, could you please share? You have shared so many fantastic memories, but still, some fondest memory?
I miss, my Indian friends and my colleagues, because we're a very close team, and Zoom has been helpful, but it's not a substitute for just spending time with each other. And I'm a big Indian foodie, so I've spent far too much money importing papad and pickle and bel puri and all sorts of things from India that keep arriving through the post. And my wife is kind of now just resigned to the fact that our fridge is going to look like the fridge of a restaurant in the Taj in Delhi.
One message, Adrian, you would have for India from Washington?
I've been through 30 years of India's recent history, and so I've seen India face these challenges, and on every occasion it has arisen stronger. This is the toughest situation India has faced, certainly in the 30 years that I've been involved in the country. But I know India will emerge a stronger civilization and a stronger country. What I hope, Nitin, is that this is the opportunity, the really one big opportunity for everyone, including those of us that play a role in India, development internationally are honest about where the priorities should be over the next 10 years. And are not just looking at the skyscrapers of Mumbai or Delhi or Hyderabad or Bangalore, but we're looking at education, we're looking at healthcare infrastructure, we're looking at the foundations of Indian society that have to be rock solid. One has a responsibility, all of us have a responsibility of sitting down at some point, God willing, as soon as possible, as this pandemic is brought under control in India, and say, what can we learn from this last 18-month period, and how do we build India back stronger? And it will grow stronger. It's just a question of how strong, how prominent, and we all have a responsibility in contributing towards that journey.
Adrian, I just cannot thank you enough. I'm for the first time in my 20-hour talks, I'm feeling loss of words to thank you for the incredible, passionate work that you have done in India. Every word that you speak, every breath that you take, it speaks about India and its well-being. And we all Indians are highly indebted to you. I'm personally very thankful to you for your valuable time, your insights, and your commitment towards India.
Thank you, Nitin. It's been a great pleasure. And I feel particularly honored that this is your anniversary edition, I believe. So congratulations on a year of India Power Talk. I've been following it with great interest, and I was delighted and honored to be invited to spend this hour with you. Thank you very much, and best wishes to you and all of those in India who are watching. You will all emerge from this stronger. I'm 100% confident about that.
Thank you, Adrian.